June 27th, 1914. 7:42 a.m. Vienna, Austria-Hungary. The scent of baked rye drifts from a street vendor's cart. Morning sunlight kisses the golden domes of the city. Streetcars hum, horses clatter, and the Danube glistens like a mirror of calm. A mother kneels to tie her son's shoelaces beside St. Stephen's Cathedral. He clutches a paper flag, the Habsburg eagle, his pride as simple as his smile. For a moment, the empire feels immortal. Trains whistle in the distance, bound for summer holidays in Trieste. Telegrams buzz through cafes where scholars debate poetry and engineers sketch blueprints of progress. Vienna breathes culture, invention, and empire. Yet beneath its marble facades lies a delicate illusion, a continent pretending that peace is permanent, though every treaty, every handshake, every empire's ambition hides a fuse. Europe in 1914 is a web, brilliantly woven, fatally tight. 6 great powers, Britain, France, Russia, Germany, Austria, Hungary, and Italy, stand entangled in promises of protection. What began as diplomacy now binds them in destiny. At the heart of this web sits the alliance system, a structure designed to prevent war but engineered to guarantee it. Germany, young and hungry after unification, in 1871, stands beside Austria-Hungary in the dual alliance, a defensive pact forged by Bismarck to isolate France. France, humiliated by the loss of Alsace-Lorraine, finds an ally in Russia. An improbable friendship between republic and autocracy, born not of trust but of fear. Britain, watching from its island throne, hesitates until Germany's navy grows like a shadow on the North Sea. Then quietly, Britain joins France and Russia, forming the Triple Entente. 6 empires, 3 pacts, 1 balance of terror. Each believes the others will never dare to move first. Each prepares for the day they do. The irony is cruel and perfect. Each treaty meant to deter war makes it more inevitable. Each promise of defense becomes a threat in waiting. It is 1914's grand illusion that alliances ensure safety. In truth, they ensure escalation. The death of one man will not kill one empire. It will summon them all. Beyond Europe's capitals, the world turns under imperial banners. The British Empire rules a quarter of the planet. The French tricolour waves from West Africa to Indochina. Germany arrives late to the feast, demanding its place in the sun. In Africa, borders are drawn with rulers and rifles. In Asia, resentment simmers beneath the Union Jack. In the Middle East, the Ottoman Empire, once a colossus, bleeds from within. And in the Balkans, tiny nations sharpen their knives against giants. Europe calls it civilization. History will call it arrogance. Smoke beneath the marble. In the palaces of Berlin, London, and St. Petersburg, rulers believe in destiny, not accident. Kaiser Wilhelm II, restless and insecure, dreams of a navy to rival Britain's and a place in history to eclipse Bismarck's. Tsar Nicholas II, bound by tradition, prays for stability even as revolution murmurs at his gates. And in Vienna, Emperor Franz Joseph, old, weary, and grieving, clings to a crumbling throne stretched over 11 nations and 15 languages. It is an empire where one assassination can shake the world. Back in Vienna, the child with the paper flag runs to join his father at the tram stop. The man adjusts his hat, unaware that in 2 days the heir to their empire will be shot dead in Sarajevo, and that every promise their leaders made will demand blood. For now, pigeons scatter across the plaza. Church bells call for morning mass. Europe smiles, and history holds its breath. Berlin, 1879. The room smells of cigar smoke and ink. Otto von Bismarck, Germany's Iron Chancellor, leans over a map of Europe. He doesn't believe in friendship, only in balance. His pen scratches across parchment as he murmurs, "Alliances, gentlemen, are like porcelain. Once broken, they cannot be mended." That night the dual alliance is born, Germany and Austria-Hungary, bound to defend each other if Russia attacks. A pact of protection, yet under the table lies a whisper of ambition. Together we stand. Together we dominate. Bismarck's web expands. In 1881, he secures the Three Emperors League, Germany, Austria, Hungary, and Russia, an awkward triangle of rivals pretending to be allies. But the Balkans burn beneath them. When Austria and Russia clash over influence in Serbia and Bulgaria, the League collapses, its promises evaporating like breath on glass. Bismarck replaces it with the Reinsurance Treaty, 1887, secretly assuring Russia that Germany will stay neutral if Austria attacks her, one man juggling empires like knives and somehow keeping them aloft. But Bismarck's system depends on him alone. When Kaiser Wilhelm II dismisses him in 1890, the entire equilibrium unravels. The new Kaiser wants glory, not caution. The web begins to tear. France stands alone, wounded since 1871, when Prussia's victory stripped her of Alsace-Lorraine. Every schoolchild learns the word revanchisme, revenge. Every veteran polishes his sword in silence. France watches as Germany grows strong, as Austria aligns, as Italy joins the Triple Alliance, 1882. Surrounded, desperate, she looks east, toward Russia, the most unlikely of allies. A republic and an autocracy shake hands in 1894. Our systems differ, France admits, but our enemies are the same. Gold flows from Paris to Moscow to modernize railways and armies. The friendship is cold, but the calculus is perfect. If Germany fights one, it will fight both. For centuries, Britain followed one rule: splendid isolation. Its empire stretched across oceans. Its fleet ruled the waves. What happened in continental Europe was a chess game. Britain was the referee. But something changes in the late 1890s. Across the North Sea, shipyards in Kiel and Wilhelmshaven thunder, day and night. Germany is building a navy to rival the Royal Fleet. Admiral Alfred von Tirpitz unveils the navy laws: dreadnoughts, cruisers, submarines, a challenge that Britain cannot ignore. Fear becomes policy. By 1904, Britain signs an understanding with France, the Entente cordiale. Not a military alliance yet, but a diplomatic embrace. 3 years later, Russia joins. The Triple Entente is born. The continent now stands divided. Two armed families glaring across the dinner table, every movement an insult, every silence a threat. From 1905 to 1914, Europe rehearses for catastrophe. Each nation conducts defensive war games that look suspiciously offensive. Railways are built not for commerce, but for mobilization. In Germany, the Schlieffen Plan lies locked in safes, a precise timetable for a two-front war. In France, Plan 17th promises to reclaim lost lands through lightning attack. In Russia, generals boast of steamrolling the West. And in Austria, officers dream of crushing Serbia like a wasp. Each nation claims to be guarding peace, yet every mobilization schedule depends on striking first. Paris, 1907. Café chatter hums beneath gaslights. Artists talk of cubism, but newspapers scream of spies and dreadnoughts. Berlin, 1908. Soldiers parade before the Kaiser, their boots pounding rhythm into the cobblestones. A metronome of pride. London, 1909. Parliament debates the naval budget. "We want 8 and we won't wait," the crowd chants, demanding more ships, more steel, more certainty. Vienna, 1910. In cafes, the empire's young officers debate honor and destiny. None realize they are standing on a cliff. Every alliance fears one region, the Balkans, the powder keg of Europe. Austria-Hungary sees Serbia's rising nationalism as poison. Russia sees Serbia as its Slavic child. Germany swears to defend Austria. France promises to back Russia. Britain to protect Belgium if trampled. One spark in Sarajevo will summon them all. "A local war is impossible," writes British diplomat Edward Grey. "The alliances will drag us in like machinery without a break." And he is right. By 1913, the machinery hums too smoothly to stop. The great powers meet at banquets, toast to peace, and rehearse mobilization drills the next morning. Diplomats exchange cordial letters, each one an unspoken threat. Europe has never seemed so civilized or so close to madness. Opera houses open, railways expand, telegraphs connect capitals in seconds. Yet this same network will soon carry the orders to kill millions. Every empire believes the others will blink first. Germany trusts that Britain won't fight for Belgium. France trusts that Germany fears two fronts. Russia trusts that its vastness guarantees survival. Austria trusts that Serbia is too small to matter. All are wrong. The alliances meant to balance power have made it brittle, a glass chandelier waiting for the first tremor. The mother in Vienna still ties her son's shoes. The paper flag still flutters. But across the continent, generals are counting trains, politicians are counting promises, and history is counting seconds. Map room, London, 1905. Sunlight cuts through dust and cigarette smoke. Men in waistcoats bend over globes the size of planets. Lines are drawn, oceans divided, continents renamed. No bullets fired, yet the earth bleeds color. By the dawn of the 20th century, nearly 85% of the world's surface is claimed by just a handful of European flags. Britain, the self-crowned mistress of the seas, rules an empire on which the sun famously never sets. From the mines of South Africa to the tea fields of Bengal, her dominion runs on coal, cotton, and conviction. France follows close behind, her colonial tricolour fluttering from Algiers to Hanoi. Both see themselves as bearers of civilization, but to the millions they govern, civilization arrives wearing shackles. Into this already crowded theatre steps a new actor, Imperial Germany. Young, ambitious, industrial, and insulted that the banquet is nearly over. In Berlin, the Kaiser gazes at maps with envy. "We demand our place in the sun," he proclaims, his moustache bristling like a challenge. The race for the last unclaimed corners of the planet begins. Between 1884 and 1914, Africa is carved like a carcass on a marble table. At the Berlin Conference, hosted ironically by Bismarck himself, diplomats use rulers, not rifles, to define dominion. They speak of progress, trade, and faith. But beneath every polite clause lies greed. When the ink dries, borders ignore rivers, languages, and lives. France claims the Sahara, Britain takes Egypt and the route to India. Belgium, under King Leopold II, seizes the Congo and turns it into a private nightmare. Rubber quotas, amputations, death by the millions, progress by another name. Germany enters late, taking Togoland, Cameroon, and German East Africa. Yet to Berlin's hawks it is never enough. They see empires as scoreboards, and Germany's numbers are small. From this resentment grows a dangerous idea. Colonial humiliation equals national dishonor. Colonies are more than land, they are engines. Rubber feeds tires, copper feeds cables, oil feeds machines. Whoever controls resources controls the century. Britain's naval blockade system guarantees global trade routes. France relies on African manpower and minerals. Germany answers with the Kriegsmarine, a fleet of steel monsters challenging centuries of British maritime rule. The dreadnought race begins in 1906. Each new ship is heavier, faster, deadlier. For every German hull launched, Britain launches two. The Atlantic becomes an armory, not an ocean. Industrial might becomes identity. Cannon production outpaces housing. Machine guns become icons of pride. Peace, once a diplomatic goal, becomes a strategic pause. Far to the east, another empire rises. Japan. In 1905, the world watches in shock as Japan defeats Russia at the Battle of Tsushima. For the first time in modern history, a non-European power crushes a Western giant. The message echoes through Europe's colonial halls. Supremacy is no longer guaranteed. Britain quickly signs the Anglo-Japanese alliance to secure Asian interests. Germany, shut out again, accuses the others of conspiracy. In Peking, European legations still recover from the Boxer Rebellion, a reminder that resentment simmers wherever flags are planted. Empires do not only fight abroad, they breed their own enemies beneath the banners of progress. To France, empire is redemption. After 1871, colonial expansion becomes a balm for the loss of Alsace-Lorraine. Each conquered province overseas is a symbolic victory against humiliation at home. Soldiers parade through Paris not as conquerors, but as healers of national pride. To Germany, empire is proof of modernity, a declaration that the new Reich belongs among the civilized. Colonial governors report directly to Berlin, missionaries follow soldiers, railways crawl through jungles carrying both gospel and gunpowder. The rivalry between Britain and Germany dominates headlines, but the psychological duel between France and Germany is deeper. It is not fought for gold or rubber, it is fought for memory. Every French schoolchild recites, "Remember Alsace, remember Lorraine." Every German newspaper warns, "France plots revenge." Thus, even the colonies tremble to the rhythm of European hate. As the world's map fills with imperial color, the spaces between empires shrink. Skirmishes become crises. Morocco in 1905, again in 1911. Both times Germany challenges France's claim, and both times Britain sides with France. Gunboats face each other across harbors. The world holds its breath. The Agadir crisis ends without war. But the message is clear. Next time, someone will not back down. Meanwhile, newspapers turn diplomacy into theatre. Cartoonists draw the Kaiser as a bull, Britain as a lion, France as a cockerel. Children learn to cheer for ships instead of songs. Imperial rivalry has become culture. By 1914, Europe looks invincible. Electric lights blaze through cities, telephones shrink the globe, airships glide above palaces. World fairs display locomotives beside tribal artifacts, proof, so they think, of human triumph. Yet beneath the electric hum lies a primitive heartbeat, fear. Every nation measures its worth by its empire, and every empire measures safety by its arms. Each technological marvel doubles as a weapon waiting for orders. A generation believes war will be quick, decisive, cleansing, a matter of months. No one imagines trenches, gas, or years of mud. From India's rail lines to Africa's mines, the colonies stand like dominoes, waiting for their masters to fall. When Europe goes to war, they will not remain spectators. French West Africans, Indian sepoys, Canadian volunteers, Australian, conscripts, millions who have never seen Europe will die for it. But that lies ahead. For now, the colonial world hums with production and submission. Ships leave Liverpool, Marseille, and Hamburg, loaded with goods and pride, returning with wealth and illusions. The empire seems eternal, until one city in the Balkans reminds the world that even giants bleed. A narrow street in Sarajevo. A tram bell rings. A newspaper flutters in the wind. On its front page, the announcement of a royal visit. Archduke Franz Ferdinand, heir to the Austro-Hungarian throne, will tour Bosnia on June 28, 1914. No one knows that the headline will become an obituary. To the rest of Europe, the Balkans are a backwater, a cluster of small nations, ancient grudges and loud anthems. To diplomats, it is the region that keeps ruining dinner parties. To historians, it is destiny. Here empire meets nationalism, and both refuse to move. Austria-Hungary rules Bosnia-Herzegovina, but the Slavs who live there dream of joining Serbia. Serbia itself dreams of uniting all southern Slavs into one nation, Yugoslavia. Russia, the mother of the Slavs, promises protection. Germany promises to protect Austria. France promises to protect Russia. Britain promises to protect Belgium, and by extension, Europe's fragile order. One spark here can summon all 6 great powers. They call it the powder keg. But no one stops playing with matches. The Ottoman Empire once ruled these lands, its call to prayer echoing across the Balkans for centuries. But by the early 1900s, it is a dying empire, retreating under pressure from national uprisings. Serbia, Bulgaria, Greece, Montenegro all rise from Ottoman ashes, carving independence through blood. The Balkan Wars of 1912 to 1913 leave the region exhausted but restless. Serbia emerges stronger, too strong for Austria-Hungary's comfort. In Vienna, generals whisper that Serbia is a disease that must be cured. In Belgrade, nationalists swear revenge for every insult. Peace exists only as a ceasefire between grudges. Franz Ferdinand is not a cruel man. In fact, he dreams of reform, of granting the empire's ethnic groups more equality, of modernizing its decaying politics. But to Serbian nationalists, he represents the oppressor, the foreign crown. His visit to Sarajevo, on June 28th, the anniversary of Serbia's medieval defeat at Kosovo Polje, is seen as a deliberate provocation. The date is sacred. To them, it's as if he comes not to honor, but to humiliate. In a coffee house across town, 7 young men whisper. They belong to Mlada Bosna, Young Bosnia, inspired by the underground Black Hand Society in Serbia. They carry pistols, cyanide, and faith that one bullet can change the world. Among them is a sickly 19-year-old Gavrilo Princip, June 28, 1914. 10 a.m., Sarajevo. The Archduke's motorcade winds through the city. Crowds cheer politely. Church bells echo against stone walls. At the Latin Bridge, one of the conspirators throws a grenade. It bounces off the Archduke's car and explodes under the next, injuring officers and civilians. The assassin swallows poison, but it fails. The crowd captures him. The motorcade speeds away. Franz Ferdinand insists on visiting the wounded at the hospital. A noble gesture, a fatal one. At 10:45 a.m., the driver takes a wrong turn, down Franz Josef Street. By chance, Princip stands there, emerging from a cafe. He steps forward, raises his pistol, and fires 2 shots. The Archduke slumps in his seat. His wife Sophie collapses beside him. "Sophie, Sophie, don't die," he whispers. "Stay alive for our children." Moments later, both are gone. The first domino has fallen. News reaches Vienna within hours. Shock turns to fury. The empire demands justice and more. Within days, evidence, some real, some exaggerated, ties the assassins to elements within Serbia's intelligence network. In Berlin, Kaiser Wilhelm II assures Austria of unconditional support, the infamous blank check. Germany promises full backing, even if Russia intervenes. Encouraged, Austria drafts an ultimatum to Serbia, a document so harsh that even the German foreign minister calls it the most brutal ever written. 10 demands. One purpose, to make refusal inevitable. July 23, 1914. 6 p.m. A messenger delivers the Austrian ultimatum to Belgrade. Serbian ministers read it in silence. It demands, among other things, that Austrian officials be allowed to operate inside Serbia's borders, a violation of sovereignty. Serbia requests 48 hours to respond. They know. Compliance means humiliation, rejection means war. In St. Petersburg, Tsar Nicholas reads the document with disbelief. Russia cannot abandon Serbia. The Slavic bond is sacred. In Paris, the French government assures Russia of support. In London, Foreign Secretary Edward Grey sighs, "The lamps are going out all over Europe. We shall not see them lit again in our lifetime." He is already right. Dominoes of Destiny, July 25th. Serbia accepts most of the ultimatum but rejects the clause on Austrian interference. July 28th. Austria-Hungary declares war on Serbia. July 30th. Russia mobilizes. August 1st. Germany declares war on Russia. August 3rd. Germany declares war on France. August 4th. Germany invades Belgium, and Britain declares war on Germany. Within a week, a regional assassination becomes a world war. The alliances designed to preserve peace now pull nations into the abyss like chains. Bismarck's porcelain is shattered. and Europe's blood will fill the cracks. Back in Sarajevo, the pigeons still gather on the cobblestones. The cafe where Princip stood remains quiet. The sound of his pistol echoes only in memory. Yet that echo crosses borders faster than any army. It is carried by telegrams, treaties, and pride. Louder than reason, stronger than restraint. By autumn, men are marching through every capital, waving flags and singing of glory. They do not yet know the words trench, gas, or Somme. They believe they will be home by Christmas. History has other plans. A factory floor, Berlin, 1913. Steam hisses, sparks fly, the clang of hammers drowns conversation. Metal becomes shape, shape becomes weapon. Every rivet is a drumbeat, every worker a soldier in advance. Europe has entered its most productive decade in history and its most destructive. In the last years before the war, industry becomes faith. Nations pray not to gods but to machines. Germany builds Krupp steelworks that can forge cannon barrels as long as locomotives. Britain's docks overflow with dreadnoughts. France paves rail lines directly into border fortresses. Russia constructs vast arms depots along the western frontier. Each factory bell tolls for peace, yet sounds like preparation for judgment. Industrialization, once the engine of prosperity, now powers paranoia. Where once machines built bridges, now they build howitzers. Where once steel strengthened cities, now it fortifies empires. No generation has ever believed so completely in progress. Electricity illuminates cities, telegraphs bind continents, flight conquers the sky. But progress untethered from peace becomes obsession. Governments measure greatness by production quotas. If Germany produces 10 battleships, Britain must produce 12. If France mobilizes 1 million men, Germany must summon 1.5. Every advance becomes threat, every invention a challenge. It is an arms race disguised as civilization. "We live in the age of steel," writes a London journalist in 1910, "and steel has no conscience. Industrial might feeds ideology. Militarism, once the creed of generals, becomes a public virtue. In Germany, children learn discipline from the parade ground. School books praise the Kaiser's army as the nation's soul in uniform. In France, military service is sacred, the school of the Republic. In Austria-Hungary, cadets salute portraits of emperors older than their families. In Russia, peasant boys march with wooden rifles, chanting songs they do not understand. The message is simple. Peace is weakness. Readiness is honor. By 1914, Europe is a continent wearing uniform. Chemists experiment with nitrates for agriculture and discover explosives. Engineers refine aviation and imagine bombers. Doctors perfect antiseptics and design gas masks. The line between progress and preparation blurs completely. Science becomes servitude, invention becomes prophecy. Factories hum 24 hours a day, producing rifles by the hundreds of thousands, shells by the millions. The scale defies imagination, as if Europe were trying to outbuild its own fear. War is expensive, but peace has become an investment in war. Banks finance battleships. Investors profit from artillery. The Krupp family fortune multiplies with each contract. British arms manufacturer Vickers advertises its machine guns to every empire, even potential enemies. The illusion of stability rests on profit, not peace. Economists call it interdependence. But in truth, Europe's prosperity hangs on the promise that someday someone will pull the trigger. Berlin, May 1913. 500,000 soldiers march to celebrate Kaiser Wilhelm's Silver Jubilee. The air vibrates with drums and brass. The Kaiser salutes from horseback, his chest heavy with medals. Observers from France and Russia watch uneasily from the stands. They applaud, politely, professionally, and make notes for their own parades. Across the Channel, Britain answers with the largest naval review in history. King George V sails past rows of gleaming dreadnoughts, each bristling with cannon. Newspapers call it a spectacle of peace through strength. The phrase will not age well. War planning staffs across Europe share one fatal belief, that modern war will be fast. Railways will deliver troops in days, precision artillery will end sieges in hours, morale will crush hesitation. Home by Christmas, soldiers say. They do not imagine years of mud, rot and silence. Industrial logic deceives them. If production can be measured, so can victory. If trains arrive on schedule, peace will arrive on time. No one foresees a world where progress itself becomes the enemy. In drawing rooms and press columns, leaders justify escalation. They speak not of conquest, but of security. Britain must guard trade routes. Germany must protect its borders. France must avenge honor. Russia must defend the Slavs. Every statement is defensive, and every defense is a threat. The vocabulary of peace has been militarized. Listen closely to Europe in 1914. You can hear the war before it starts. The whistle of locomotives, troop trains in rehearsal, the hammering in shipyards, armor plates being riveted, the typewriters in ministries, drafting mobilization orders masked as routine correspondence. Even the music changes. Composers trade romance for marches. Poets write not of love, but of destiny. The age of beauty is yielding to the age of efficiency. And efficiency has no heart. Militarism convinces Europe that strength prevents war. But the stronger each nation becomes, the weaker peace grows. Deterrence turns into dependence. Leaders cannot disarm without appearing vulnerable. By the spring of 1914, the continent resembles a loaded gun, polished, admired, and resting on a delicate table. Everyone believes no one will dare pull the trigger. They are wrong. A telegraph key clicks in a dim room. Dots and dashes skip across copper wires, racing from capital to capital. Messages no longer carry words of diplomacy, only timetables, ultimatums, and orders. Europe has decided to stop talking. July 1914. Crops ripen, orchestras perform, tourists flood the Alps. The postcards still say, "Wish you were here." Yet every cafe hums with rumors. Mobilizations, insults, alliances invoked. In Berlin, Wilhelm II spends his holiday aboard the royal yacht, still convinced peace can be saved. In London, Sir Edward Grey paces his office, exhausted. "The lamps are going out all over Europe," he repeats, "and we shall not see them lit again in our lifetime." Outside his window, gaslights flicker as dusk falls. The image will outlive him. July 28th. Austria-Hungary declares war on Serbia. Belgrade's church bells ring like alarms. Artillery shells crash across the Danube. What was meant to be a local punishment begins to awaken the alliances. July 30th. Russia mobilizes. Trains thunder westward through birch forests, their smoke rising like omens. Peasants cheer. Officers salute icons of saints. They march believing they defend their Slavic brothers. August 1st, Germany declares war on Russia. Crowds fill unter den Linden waving flags, singing Deutschland über alles. Few understand what mobilization truly means. Factories converted to barracks, peace converted to paperwork. August 3rd, Germany declares war on France. The Schlieffen Plan unfolds like clockwork, precision born of arrogance. Troops pour through Luxembourg toward Belgium because plans cannot improvise. August 4th, Germany invades Belgium. Britain, bound by treaty, declares war on Germany. The fuse has reached the powder. Across Europe, railway stations become theatres of euphoria. Men toss flowers, women wave handkerchiefs, bands play national anthems. Photographs capture smiles history will never return. Posters promise honor, adventure, brotherhood. In reality, Europe is mobilizing not armies but entire civilizations. Within weeks, 65 million men will wear uniform. Within months, factories will cease making shoes and start making shells. Priests bless bayonets, poets write of cleansing fire. They have mistaken catastrophe for meaning. In Germany, trains leave every 8 minutes, precision worthy of envy. Each car carries men, horses, and faith in mathematics. The Schlieffen Plan demands speed. Through Belgium, crush France in 6 weeks, then pivot east before Russia can fully awaken. But every timetable assumes perfection, and perfection dies at first contact. Belgium resists. Fortresses at Liège hold for days, then weeks, slowing the juggernaut. Britain's small professional army lands in France, joining the defence. Machine guns chatter, cavalry charges dissolve under shrapnel. Already, the modern world is announcing itself in noise. By late August, maps burn with movement. The Eastern Front explodes from the Baltic to the Carpathians. Russia floods into East Prussia, only to be crushed at Tannenberg, one of the most mechanized annihilations yet recorded. In the west, German troops approach Paris before being halted at the Marne, where taxis ferry French soldiers to the front, a city defending itself with its own pulse. The war that should have lasted weeks stalls into trenches. Steel meets mud. Movement meets mathematics. Courage meets chemistry. Autumn 1914. Across Europe, letters begin arriving home, short, uncertain, written in pencil. "We thought it would be glorious," one French conscript writes, "but it is only thunder and fear. By Christmas, nearly 1 million are dead. The alliances have fulfilled their promises perfectly. Each nation has defended its friends and destroyed itself. The web meant to hold Europe together has become a net pulling it underwater. Colonies answer their masters' calls. Indian troops march in Flanders mud. Algerians dig trenches beneath sleet. Australians fight on Turkish cliffs. The war is no longer European, it is planetary. Steamships become troop carriers. Telegraphs become veins of empire. Every continent beats to Europe's drum of death. In New York and Buenos Aires, neutral citizens read headlines in disbelief. How could civilization, crowned with science and reason, fall so fast? The answer hides in the telegrams: pride, fear, and faith in the machine. By winter 1914, the world realizes peace was never lost in a moment. It was dismantled piece by piece, factory by factory, treaty by treaty. The alliances did not fail. They worked exactly as designed. That is the tragedy. Europe had built the greatest engine of progress ever known. It mistook the sound of its engines for the sound of destiny. Now those same engines churn the mud of Flanders. Vienna, 1918. The same city that once smelled of bread and brass bands now smells of coal dust and hunger. Children stand in ration lines clutching tin cups. The Habsburg eagle on a crumpled flag flutters weakly in the cold. The mother who once tied her son's shoes now mends uniforms for strangers. The boy, no longer a boy, limps home from the front with one boot missing. Church bells still ring, but the notes seem thinner, uncertain, as though the air itself has learned to mourn. 4 years have devoured an entire generation, 10 million dead, 20 million wounded. Empires that ruled continents dissolve overnight. Austria-Hungary, gone. Ottoman broken, Russia, consumed by revolution, Germany stripped, humiliated, trembling. The mapmakers gather again, their rulers trembling in tired hands, drawing new borders on old scars. The Treaty of Versailles will try to close the wound with paper and signatures, but beneath every line lies infection. Reparations breed resentment, nationalism festers, vengeance germinates in silence. The war to end all wars becomes the war that taught the world how to fight forever. Factories return to silence, their windows shattered. The same machines that once forged weapons now forge prosthetic limbs. The rhythm of hammers remains, but the purpose has changed. Metal for survival, not pride. Railways built for mobilization now carry refugees. Hospitals overflow with ghosts that breathe. Progress itself feels ashamed. Science has proven its genius and its cruelty. Poets who once sang of glory now whisper of mud, rats, and the stench of gas. The modern age has arrived, but it walks with a limp. Those who survive wonder what exactly was won. No empire is safe, no ideology pure, no victory clean. The men who had marched off to save civilization have returned to find it buried beneath their boots. In Berlin, veterans stare at bread lines. In Paris, widows stare at empty chairs. In London, children play war with sticks because they have never known peace. The generals call it armistice. History calls it the end of one world and the rehearsal for the next. Vienna again. Snow begins to fall on the same cobblestones where, in 1914, sunlight once shimmered. The pigeons return, as they always do. The mother and son, older, quieter, stand in silence before a shuttered bakery. Inside, the ovens are cold. He touches the faded flag in his coat pocket, the paper eagle long torn. They believed alliances would preserve peace. They believed progress would civilize power. They believed reason could chain ambition. They were wrong, but they built our world. The sound that began as hammers in a factory still echoes in every treaty, every border, every silence between nations. The camera pulls back. Europe, grey and still, stitched with rail lines like veins of memory. History does not end, it reverberates. The guns fall silent, but the ideas that fired them remain loaded. Imperial rivalry becomes economic competition. Alliances evolve into leagues, coalitions, unions, each promising that this time will be different. And somewhere, a child ties his shoes under a new flag, while the world once again calls it peace. The fuse was lit once. It can be lit again. The lesson is not that war destroyed the world, but that the world built itself to be destroyable.